All right. Genesis 4, we're going to start at the spot where it says the crouching of sin. So verse 6, and Yahweh said to Cain, why are you angry and why is your face fallen? If you do well, will I not accept you? But if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Then Cain said to his brother Avel, fun fact, that means vapor. So it's like the narrator is telling you right away that Abel doesn't last long just by his own name. He's like, yeah, this guy doesn't last long. His name is Vapor. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why some people in scholarship are not totally convinced that these are their actual given names. There's a chance it might be, there's a chance it might not be, because Adam and Eve wouldn't have known their child's going to die like that. Some of them are like, these are real people, but they're using names to characterize theological messaging, but they're still real people because, you have Jesus referring to them as if they're real people from the genealogies. And then some are like, well, maybe that is real name. We just don't really know. We kind of just assume that's a real name. But yeah, Abel's name means vapor. He appears for a couple verses and he's gone next, very, very quickly. Then Cain said to his brother Abel, let us go into the sade, or the field. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. I think it's interesting that what we have here is that sin, which, as we described last week, is more of a verb, is a thing that you do. This thing that you do is being described and personified as this creature that is crouching at the door. It is waiting to pounce and to attack. It is waiting for Cain to walk out and consume him. And I don't think this is by accident, considering we just have a narrative before then of a creature that comes in to cause the two humans before to sin, and it itself is in sin. Now, I'm not saying that this is a serpent, because, serpents don't crouch. But this is why it's called the Chaos Monster series. The serpent figure is kind of what we're tracing, the Leviathan, the sea monster, but there's other ways to describe things. We have sin as crouching, waiting for Cain to come out, is waiting for the opportunity for Cain to come out, and God's already warned him. God is again warning someone of sin. This is Cain's Genesis 2 and 3 moment right here. God has warned him. Basically, you eat of this, you'll be doomed to die. You do this, and you'll be consumed by this. And of course, what does Cain do? So let me find, all right, so crouching, here's the interesting thing about crouching. The word itself can also, I like to point this out I've pointed out on another Bible study I've done. Crouching is a good translation because it's talking about the readiness to pounce onto someone, like it's ready to attack you. But here's the other weird stuff. It also can be understood as lying down and resting. And so it's not even just crouching like antsy. It's very much anticipating that he's going to do it and is totally calm about it. This personification of sin is ready to attack, comfortably knowing that Cain will come out. It has no question that Cain is going to do it. If we were to treat sin like an actual thing. It's lying down, it's resting, and the second Cain comes out, it will be consumed. No problem waiting for Cain to come out the door. I think it's really interesting that this word is not even just like crouching, like getting ready to jump, and waiting. And you're like, how long have you been sitting there waiting? 20 minutes. It's like, no, it's comfortable waiting. Sin is very comfortable, if we're to personify it. It's very comfortable waiting for us to come out because it knows that we will. But again, that kind of ties back to the reason why I highlighted in green, ties back to that serpent thing. The serpent is using wisdom, is very comfortable. It seems to be in the narrative like it's not struggling to rip Eve and Adam away from God, to like just completely derail everything that's going on. And he's saying that action that you're wanting to do is boiling up in you and wants to consume you, wants to take over you. Don't let it. But, if we have a serpent figure before who is prodding away, there's a chance there's a serpent figure again prodding away, or something prodding away at him saying, yeah, but you should do it. Whether it be his desire, because that desire is already there, or there's something outside kind of pushing him to go even further saying, do it. We don't know what happened between Cain going to kill his brother and God's warning. We know that God warned him, but then Cain goes and does it. Is the serpent back prodding away saying, hey, go do this? Maybe. Is it just Cain's desire to go kill his brother? Maybe. Either way, this thing that we do is being personified as a creature that wants to completely consume us, consume Cain. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it, which is what the humans are told to do in Genesis 1, to rule over creation, which is again playing into the whole sin in some aspects, plays into the fact that we are acting less than we are supposed to be and acting more like the animals. Not that the animals are bad or that they're sinful, but we're not acting in line with who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be, especially when we consider the image of God facet of we represent him, and then now we're doing this thing that kind of like covers that over what we're supposed to be doing. And we're saying, yeah, he approves of that. I mean, Cain was just told, don't do this. And then Cain goes and does it anyway. Let's go into the Sade. And when they were in the Sade, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him, or rose up against vapor. So paralleling these things, we mentioned already that, in Genesis 1:26, it talks about making humankind in the image and according to his likeness. We've spent 4 whole weeks on that, and that they're to rule over all these creatures. Cain is being told to rule over this thing as if it was a creature that he could rule over. Okay, so there's that parallel right there. Genesis 3, serpent comes to use wisdom to deceive and drag the man and woman back into a state of disorder. Not only that, but the serpent comes from the place that Cain takes his brother to die. 3 verse 1, now the Nachash was more arum than any beast of the Sade, which Yahweh God had made. And he said to the woman, indeed has God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden, which is also the place that Adam is made pre-Garden of Eden. Then, in chapter 4, verse 8, Cain said to his brother, let us go out into the Sade. Cain takes his brother to the Sade, of which sometimes refers to a field that one works on, or can refer to this dry state like the wilderness, of which is the very same place that the serpent comes from, and that Adam was made pre-Eden. Usually we have sin as being described as like an animal, like a creature, described as being able to lie down and rest, but also be crouching, ready to pounce. But then you also have that Cain being warned not to give into it. Now, we don't know what went through his mind between now and then. Clearly, he decided to give into it. Went out the door towards the creature, was told it was there, and he goes out to it. And then approaches Abel, takes him to the field. I can't think this is just a random description. It doesn't specify what field it is. It just says the Sade, which is where the serpent comes from to destroy Adam and Eve, which is the pre-Edenic state. Cain is participating as a serpent, which makes sense. Let's go back to chapter 3. Cain takes his brother out to die in the field where the serpent's from. And well, he took his brother's life, exercising the idea that he is God, which we know in Genesis 9 is a big no-no. Don't kill anyone. That's a full-blown attack, not just on that person, but on God. So he takes his brother's life and puts him back into a state of disorder, like he has no life anymore. He's now back into the Sade, which is interesting, considering the reason why I don't think this is just a random coincidence that they're using Sade. If we go back to the curse of the serpent in Genesis 3, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the Sade. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So there's supposed to be enmity between the seed of the woman, seed of the serpent. Talked about last week, we're not talking about snakelings. We're not talking about baby snakes. The very first conflict we see after this is between 2 brothers from the woman. One who goes after the crouching sin monster. One who just brought a great offering. We don't know why his offering was specifically chosen over the other. We can speculate. The first enmity between the 2, out in the field, between 2 seeds of the woman, after we were just told that there will be enmity between two seeds. And the serpent is from the Sade. Cain drags him out to the Sade to kill him, to put him back into, takes him out to disorder, to put him into disorder. This is where we're going to start to see that it is being very clear that the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent are going to be those who are in line with God and those who are at enmity with God. Those who are, I'm going to walk with Yahweh, walk in the garden. But the seed of the serpent is any human being who aligns with disorder and opposes God, which would be order. Which makes sense, what Jesus calls the Pharisees, you brood of vipers. He's basically, you're opposing God. You are not acting as a seed of the woman. You're acting as a seed of the serpent. You are at enmity with God. You're at enmity with his plans. With who he is. You're at enmity with order because of how you decide to run things. You're not of God. You're acting as of this. I think that's really interesting because you have immediately another Genesis 3 moment, kind of. But in this case, Cain is the woman. The crouching is the serpent, but Cain goes and participates as the seed of the serpent. So Cain takes on like 2 little roles right here of the woman who sees something that is good and does it, but also sees to go to bring someone back to disorder, which is what the serpent desires to do. So he's full blown seed of the serpent right now. And then you have Abel, who was seed of the woman, killed. But yeah, we have a Genesis 3 moment, and the first seed of the serpent is the seed of a woman. This is how a lot of our narrative is me playing out. We're going to be trying to figure out who is the serpent or what is the serpent, because we're going to have times where it's not people specifically. Let's go to chapter 9. I think it's 9. Okay. I've given you my comments on this before, but I'd like to actually see if we can find the pieces. Okay. Yeah, we'll look at verse 18 and onward. So I've already told you before about Genesis 6 through 8 is effectively Genesis 1 undone and redone. Wherever you have a decreation moment, there is always a creation moment that follows. All right. So I'm going to kind of lay out some of the key components. In not every narrative will you get all of the components, but I'm going to lay out some components, and we're going to see if we can find them. I'm already kind of hinting at that we're about to get another set of moments right here. So within the Genesis 2 and 3, since we're starting to develop the ability to trace patterns, Genesis 2 and 3, we have a garden that is planted, or an Eden spot, or a God's presence spot, or whatever you want to call it. But there's also a wilderness spot, or a field spot, okay, outside of that. You then also have usually 2 to 3 figures. You have a person who is deceiving one person, or trying to. You have a person who is seeing things and is trying to use their own wisdom to figure things out, as well as the person that is trying to deceive and is using their own wisdom to try to do things. They're both, one's trying to convince the other to do something, and this person will either do it or not do it. And then there's the thing that they see that is good. There is the tree. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's not. Okay, we have almost everyone being an E figure. I pointed out that a person can play more than one role. So Ham sees something and takes that opportunity. He sees something that appears to be good for him. For him, is taking that power and authority we talked about a few weeks ago. And then it says, and told his 2 brothers outside. This is his moment to play the serpent to draw them into something. They don't actually see the nakedness, but because they turn around, they reject that opportunity. So the tree of delight is the nakedness. Consequence is the curse of Cain. I like how you said the field might be the tent, kind of this decreation moment in the tent. I thought that was kind of cool. I never thought about it that way. That's actually kind of cool. But we're in a garden, and Ham plays a serpent figure, and everyone plays an Eve figure. 1 just plays an Eve figure and collapses. 2 sees something and don't take of it. And 1 not only takes of it, but becomes the serpent, the other 2 brothers. Let's do another one. This one actually is from the notes, because I think it will start to make the future passages make more sense when we get to these other Genesis 3 narratives. Okay, so let's go to Genesis 12. This is post the call of Avram, verse 10. Now, there was a famine in the land, so Avram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. When Avram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, and when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. But the Lord afflicted the Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Avram's wife. So Pharaoh called Avram and said, what is this you have done to me? All right, so looking at the Genesis 12, 10 through 20, in comparison to Genesis 3, we have Avram, acting as a serpent. He tells Sarai to basically lie, or that he will lie, about the fact that she is his sister. Well, more importantly, she's his wife. Sure, the narrative specifies that she's his half-sister, so that's a half-truth right there, but deceiving about the fact that it's his wife, because his fear is that he's going to die. Hold on to that point, that's really interesting. He recognizes that Sarai would be like the tree of knowledge, or the tree of wisdom for the Egyptians. The Egyptians in this case would be Eve, because they're seeing something beautiful, especially Pharaoh in this case, and in this case, because he's being deceived, he's taking, right? So it's not really Pharaoh's fault here. God still comes down on him because there's a covenant between Avram and Sarai, because they are husband and wife, and he's not going to let polygamy happen, and it's his chosen people he's going to be working through. And so he stops him and warns him. So we have here, the serpent is the covenant person that God has chosen to work with. The woman, or Eve, is the Egyptians and the Pharaoh. You have the tree, which is now Sarai, and what they're seeing is that she is very much beautiful and is delightful. She is delightful to their eyes. This is our Genesis 3 moment all over again. But what's interesting, as I said before, that verses 1 through 9, God just made a covenant with them. So I'll just read that real quick. Now Yahweh said to Avram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And we continue on, where it then says, Then Yahweh appeared to Avram and said, To your offspring I will give you this land. So he built there an altar to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Yahweh and called upon the name of Yahweh. And Avram journeyed on, still going toward the Negev. So we just had, God promised him, I'm going to make you a great nation, which means I'm going to protect you. You are who I'm working with. Avram's first decision right after this, at least within the narrative, is to do what he sees as good as in his own eyes. So he's playing a serpent, and he's playing his own little Eve figure. Like he's a serpent to his own Eve figure and to the Egyptians of, they're going to kill me, so, which means God's not going to protect me. And he's completely doubting God in this entire moment right here. Not even does he just doubt, he full-blown abandons the mission and takes control of it himself. So Avram takes matters into his own hands just after this promise and calling. You know, the whole, I'm going to bless you and I'll curse those who go against you. He completely abandons that right now and decides that he's going to do it himself, plays the serpent for himself and for others, which means that he's not even just playing the serpent, he's acting as the seed of the serpent. So now the narrative is telling us that even God's covenant people can play the serpent. They can take on the serpent role because they're engaging in deceit for their own betterment and in unfortunate contrast for everyone else's lack of benefit, you could say. I can't think of a better word for some reason at the moment because my brain shut down. So as my point I've written here, giving in and acting out as a seed of the serpent or as a chaos agent is not only of those who are outside of God's chosen people, or the Bible actually highlights how frequently God's own chosen people act out as agents of chaos when taking matters into their own hands and descending into disorder, thinking that they know better than God. This kind of pattern can be continually traced throughout the entirety of the Bible, but this is kind of just how it begins. And is this the only time that Abram does this? He does it again. He has not learned his lesson. He does it twice. Let's go to 1 Samuel 24. So we're out of the Torah now. So then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David, or technically David, to seek David and his men in front of the Wild Goats Rock. Great name for a location. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way, where there was a cave. Saul went in to relieve himself. So now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. The men of David said to him, Here is a day of which Yahweh said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hands, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you. Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And afterward, David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, Yahweh forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, my Adonai. So Saul, Yahweh's anointed, or Yahweh's, here's the fun fact, Yahweh's Messiah, or Mashiach, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is Yahweh's Mashiach. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. All right, so in chapter 24, these first 7 verses, Saul is the opportunity to kill Saul is our tree moment, is the opportunity that seems right, is the thing that seems good to the people. David would be the Eve in this moment because he's being told and he's seeing an opportunity here. His men kind of playing a serpent figure, and David kind of calls him out for it. He doesn't outright call him serpent, but he calls him out for the fact that this is not right. It really does not sit with him well that the idea of killing Saul, cutting his robe did not work for him. And we're in the wilderness. We're outside of Israel. He's literally in the wilderness, like he's running around in caves and in between trees trying to stay in hide. So David's opportunity before him, of which they're saying is Yahweh's handing this over to him, and David's saying no, it's not. This is not God giving me the opportunity. But David does cut a corner of his robe. So David is seeing that there's an opportunity to kill him and become king, or let him reign king, stay hidden in the wilderness, stay hidden in the place of testing. David plays the opposite of Avram here. He starts to go a direction, but then he backs away because he remembers who is the Messiah, and he remembers who is the one that anointed him. Not just the Messiah that currently is on the throne, but that he is the Messiah. That if God anointed me, that means my time will come, which means I'm not going to die here. Even though I feel like I'm going to, my time is not now. I think all this is really cool backdrop when we then go to verse 8. Afterward, David also arose and went out of the cave and called after Shaul, my Adonai, so my Lord the King. And Saul looked behind him. David bowed with his face to the eretz, so to the ground, and paid homage. David said to Saul, why do you listen to the words of men who say, behold, David seeks you harm? Behold, this day your eyes have seen how Yahweh gave you today into my hand in the cave. So he's saying that God has left me with this opportunity. God is not preventing from me. He's left me with this testing moment. God is testing me right now, knowing how David would turn out, because testing are more for us than they are for God. Like, right? God tests us for our benefit, not for his. So he knows how David's going to turn out. This is to reveal David the position he's in. Behold, this day your eyes have seen how Yahweh gave you today into my hand in the cave. And some told me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not put out my hand against my Adonai, for he is Yahweh's Mashiach. See, my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand. Well, look how easy it was for me to get you. You didn't even notice I took a corner of your robe. You're completely in a vulnerable position. For by the fact that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you, you may know and see that there is no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May Yahweh judge between me and you. May Yahweh avenge me against you. But my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancients say, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? May Yahweh therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you, and see to it, and plead my cause, and deliver me from your hand. I got goosebumps. Because David's right here saying, God gave me allowed me to have this opportunity. And look how easy it would have been for me to do it, because you're in a vulnerable position. You didn't even know I cut your corner off your robe. Like, how quiet is David that he just snuck up, cut the robe, no one noticed? Not like, I think I would feel like my robe's being cut. Saul is not even aware that it's been cut. And he says, let it not be me who decides who becomes king, who's judged how, who dies when. Let it be his business, not mine. He takes his Eve moment, which is awesome. So the Eve moment for Eve is, do I rely on my senses and my sense of right and wrong, or do I rely on Yahweh? David goes, let it not be my senses that guide me through this. Let it be Yahweh. That paragraph gives me goosebumps when I think about that first paragraph. And you can say, for an application point, we all have our Garden of Eden moments. We all have a moment where something seems like an opportunity to us, and the question is, are we going to rely on God to guide us through it, or are we going to go on about ourselves? Are we going to trust the things that we see, hear, feel, or are we going to turn to him? Often, we kind of go our own way, and God lets that happen. I mean, he tests us, and sometimes we fail the test, sometimes we pass the test. The serpent narrative is going to be fun, is we're going to see that is a mixture of testing moments. It's going to be a mixture of describing people and how they're going to be, as we're going to see in the Exodus narrative, where we're not even just going to be seeing like moments. We're going to be just seeing like people are just full-blown described as things, especially in light of the Psalms and prophets. And then sometimes it's not describing people, but it's describing other forces, whether it be like political governments, which yes are people technically, but like groups of people or spiritual beings, or sometimes just life itself. But the serpent can be someone of the God's covenant people. And that I think is a very interesting thing, because Saul is of God's covenant people too. He is an Israelite. This is pre-splitting the kingdoms. So this is when Israel's all still one. And Avram was literally just given a covenant, and then he goes and plays the serpent because he's scared. The authors knew what they were doing when they were describing these moments. Of course, guided by the Holy Spirit, but they knew what they were doing when they were writing the stuff down.